Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Tonight I'm going to show how I achieved these drips using epoxy and cornstarch. If after watching this video you like it, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. So first things first, we're going to go over supplies needed. You're going to need your mixed epoxy, part A and part B. I've already mixed some here. I'm doing 1 tumbler, so I did not mix a lot. I used 7.5 mils of part A and part B, mixed it together, and I placed a small amount into this cup. And then I have a small amount here that I'll use just in case I mix too thick. You're also going to need your cornstarch. This is just a regular Great Value brand from Walmart. Any cornstarch will do. You're also going to need your colorant. I'm using neon pink resin tint from Art Resin, which I purchased in a kit from backfistcustoms.com. I'm also going to use this hot pink glitter called Crazy Ex-Girlfriend from crymeaglitter.com. You're going to need some gloves. You're going to need a popsicle stick, some wipes, just in case you make a mistake. Also some lint-free wipes and some alcohol, which I don't see over here. These are great for cleanup. And of course, you're going to need your epoxy tumbler. This tumbler has been glittered, epoxied, and sanded, so that's why it looks a little dull. You want your tumbler to have a layer of epoxy over it so that if you make any mistakes, you could easily just wipe the drips off. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I have my cornstarch in here. You're going to take some of your colorant and you're just going to do a few drops. Well, that was a lot of drops. Using cornstarch, it changes the color which you start off with. And you'll see as we go in the video. It's a brilliant hot pink right now, right? And as we add the cornstarch, it'll go paler and paler until it's like a light, pretty baby pink. You can add more of your color to it or not. I probably won't add any more color because I'm going to cover the drips in epoxy. Also, normally I'd have my tumbler with the decal already on it, but I'm not really sure what I'm going to put on this tumbler, but I did want to demonstrate how I do the drips using the cornstarch. So I've gotten my epoxy and my color mixed in there really well. And I'm going to start adding my cornstarch. The point in adding the cornstarch is normally when you do the drips, you have to wait for your epoxy to thicken on its own, which could take anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour, depending on the type of epoxy that you have. Using the cornstarch, it's a thickener, like in food and gravies and soups and all that. Stews, you would use cornstarch to thicken it up. It's going to be the same thing in your epoxy. You're going to mix it in your epoxy to thicken it up so that you don't have to wait so long for the epoxy to thicken on its own. So in about 15 to 20 minutes, its epoxy will be to the consistency or the thickness that I want it, and I'll be able to go ahead and start my drips. Now on the tumbler I'm going to show, I don't want my drips to be that long. I want them more about right here. So I'm going to let my epoxy get kind of thick. I'm gonna add some more cornstarch. I'm not really sure how much cornstarch I add in here. I just add until it's at a thickness that I'm comfortable with, or how I think I'm gonna want my drips to look. If I want the drips to be longer, to run longer, fall longer, however you want to call it or say it, I would add more cornstarch. If I want shorter, fatter drips, like here, if I want my drips to run long or fall longer down the cuff, such as here, I would add less cornstarch. If I want them to be shorter drips, such as here, I'm gonna add more cornstarch. There you go. That is what I was supposed to have said. There are other thickening agents out there that you can use to thicken your cornstarch, thicken your epoxy. I'm using cornstarch because it's readily accessible to most people and it's pretty inexpensive. Counterculture DIY has a cornstarch available, has a thickener available called Nice and Thick. Seen right here. Which does what the cornstarch does without changing the color of your epoxy so drastically. And from my experience, it does not require as much of the thickener as cornstarch does. Again, that's Counterculture DIY Nice and Thick. But tonight, we are going to use cornstarch. As you can get the same effect with your drips using cornstarch. So you can see it's a little thicker than what it was when we started, what epoxy normally looks like. And we are about 8 minutes into this video, or this recording. So we're gonna add some more cornstarch. And give it a stir. I'm not adding too much at one time because I want to be able to thoroughly mix the cornstarch into the epoxy. And I want to be able to watch and control how much the epoxy is thickening. Because it's the whole point of using a cornstarch, is so that you can control it. When I would try to let the epoxy thicken on its own, I would always miss that sweet spot. I'd watch and watch, and then it wouldn't be thick, it wouldn't be thick, it wouldn't be thick. I'd get distracted, go do something, fold some laundry, put something to wash, straighten up, clean up, or work on some other cups, and dang, my epoxy would have gotten thick. Too thick or hardened in the cup. So still really runny, so we're gonna add more cornstarch. Initially, I'm adding quite a bit of cornstarch because I know it's gonna take a minute for it to start to thicken. Once it starts to thicken, I'll add less cornstarch as I go, because I don't want to add too much. But if I do add too much, I have my little reserve of epoxy over here I can add to. Here to thin it a little bit. So there we go. I'm gonna add some more cornstarch. We're gonna give it a stir. And it's really starting to thicken now. But I know it's still not where I want it to be. And once I get it mixed in here, I'll show you guys where we are with the thickness at this point. So we are about 11 minutes into this recording. And that's where we are. So it's still really runny. I want it to get thicker than that. So I'm gonna add some more. A nice big scoop, right? And let's mix that. And then it's starting to get kind of thick. So I'll add less cornstarch this next go round. And also, if you notice, it's a paler pink now than when we first started. Alright, so it's still really runny. We're going to add some more. Not as big a scoop of the cornstarch, because it's starting to get to where I think I want it. Probably a couple more scoops of cornstarch and it'll be where I want. At this point, you could also add more of your color to the cornstarch and epoxy mixture. I'm not going to worry about it because I'm actually going to add glitter on top of it. So when I lift up, it's still really runny. This would run all the way down my tumbler. So we're going to add some more cornstarch. We're going to give it a mix. And we are almost 14 minutes into this recording, which is still shorter than if you let the epoxy thicken on its own. And you're able to see what's going on and judge for yourself how thick you want it to be. And a nice good mix. So it's gotten thick, but it's still running. So we're going to add some more. And also keep in mind when you're thinking about the time, I'm doing some talking, so I'm not 100% focused on mixing this. I'm trying to let the viewers be able to see what's going on as I'm adding the cornstarch. Still too runny, you guys. So the cornstarch does not appear to affect how the epoxy hardens. It hardened just fine. And also I will be adding a layer of epoxy over my drips. I am not so advanced or expert at these drips that I'm able to clean them up without breaking the seal on my tumbler. And I'll show what that looks like when you put a layer of epoxy over the drips. Still too runny. And I think this might be it. It's kind of hard to stir. And it seems like it's nice and thick. So, might be too thick. How I'll test it is I'll take a bit and I'll just swipe it on the edge of the cup and I'll see how it runs. It's moving a little slow. So I'm going to add the tiniest bit of epoxy here. I think that this might be it. Okay. So like I said, I didn't want my drips to run too much. So I'm just going to scoop some up on the popsicle stick. And I'm just going to run it across the top of my tumbler. And it'll slowly start to drip. I'm going to go around. All the way around. And then we'll work on where the drips start to occur. Alright, so there we go. So now I've had it all the way around my tumbler and you can see it's already starting to drip. Where I want bigger drips, how you get the bigger drips is you take a scoop, big or small, depending on how you want your drip to look, and just scrape it off and then it'll start to drip. I'll just add more. I think I'm gonna want a drip like right there. So I'm just gonna scrape my popsicle stick off. You can see it's getting the bigger drips. Right. So you can give it a little push if needed. Now when the drips start running too much, you're going to take your tumbler and you're going to flip it. And then they'll run back the other way. So, see it's starting to thicken. I'm going to add a little bit of your reserve epoxy in here and give it a stir. As you see, when it runs back down, the drip starts to flatten a little bit. When it starts looking like that, you're just going to flip it back over. And then there it goes. It'll go ahead and give it back its drip consistency. Like this one is going too long, right? So what I can do, I can take a wipe because it's epoxied, and I can just get rid of that. And then I can clean it up very carefully. And then I can do the same here. So go up. And then clean it up. And that's why you want to make sure you epoxy your tumbler. And I have a little string here. I'm going to try to grab that very carefully. Clean that string up. There we go. And then that's where my drips are. So to clean that rim, you can wait until it's hardened all the way and take an X-Acto knife and clean it up. Or again, you can take your, I'm using a baby wipe, you can use any kind of wipe and go around and clean that rim up. I'm just going to clean that rim. All right. So we are 27 minutes into this video and I have my drips. And my rim is clean. I have epoxy. If they get too far, they start going too far, I can flip it over. And make it run the other way. And then I can flip it back down. And I can play with it. I can add more epoxy. Alright, I had to give a pause. My son came in the kitchen. So, drips are moving. Just flip it. Let them go the other way. And just let them fall back down. And you can see they're thinning out. That's not the look you want. You want it to have that nice 3D effect. So once it starts to go solo, you'll flip it back over. Once they've stopped moving so much, that's when you can go ahead and you can add your glitter. So it's just watching and waiting. So we'll give it a flip, and I'll go run and get something to show you guys what I use besides the pencil caddies to hold my tumblers. Okay, so I made these little stands. The workmanship is not awesome because I'm definitely not a woodworker, but it works. So I just got a piece of longwood from Lowe's. They won't cut it down, very short size, but I had a saw here at home that I used. Flip it back over. I have a saw, and so I have one that has 3 and I have one that has 2. I have melt ends on my PVC arms, so make sure you guys can see. I can screw those in here like this, and my tumblers are sitting there perfectly. You can make it single ones. As you can see, this one isn't mine. This is the one that I got with my turner. I ordered my turners from Cool and Useful Things. Look, and there's 3. You can also get the coupler, the PVC coupler that's not threaded, and I have some of those, and you can sit it in there. So how I did this is I took some E6000, put E6000 around here, stuck it on there, and then once the E6000 dried, I poured epoxy around there to make it nice and secure. And those are little stands. There's also at Dollar Tree silver paper towel holders over in the kitchen area that you can use. And I have pool noodles inside of my tumblers, and these slide right over those paper towel holders. So I'm watching, and it looks like it may have slowed down on moving. Just trying to smooth that. And I might be able to add my glitter. I'm gonna close all my stuff, do a quick cleanup, and then we'll get ready to add the glitter. I use legal size printer paper to catch my glitter. Hopefully this has stopped moving. We'll see. So again, this is Crazy Ex-Girlfriend from Cry Me a Glitter. It's a chunkier glitter. I'm trying to debate if I want to use Crazy Ex-Girlfriend or Heartbreaker. Heartbreaker is a finer. I think we're going to go with Heartbreaker. It's a finer cut and won't drag down the drips as much. So I'm just going to pour the glitter on there. While the epoxy is still wet. Okay. And when you do this, you want to make sure that your epoxy is not moving a whole lot. And I'm going to make sure I get along the rim. All right. Give it a tap. And then once it is dried, I'll go back and I will brush off that glitter that's on the tumbler. But this is it. It's how you do your drips with cornstarch. So I hope this helps somebody who's interested in doing the drips and was looking for an alternative way. So I make sure I get glitter everywhere on all the sides. All right, there we go. And this one had Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which is a chunkier, more sparkly hot pink. And this is Heartbreaker, and they're both from Cry Me a Glitter. So again, if you like this video, if you found it helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Y'all have a nice night.